we already cannot be timed with age. So if that's the case, why would you do yourself even more disjustice by not taking care of your body?
All right, 1, 2, 3, and... All right, so Short Circuit, a little spinoff of the Circuit podcast at which me, Elijah Shaw, because I'm never around, I'm going to do my own little mini podcast, and I decided that I could, since I'm doing a podcast, I could bring my friends up. And so welcome to the Short Circuit podcast. My guest today is JT Brown. He's a close protection professional who specializes in working with public figures operating in challenging and non-permissive environments. Today, I want to talk about mindset and training and the training that's required to work with a clientele that's operating in these areas, as well as the industry's perception versus the actual reality. But first up, welcome to the show, JT.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Yeah, bro. We've been trying to make this happen for a while now, trying to get these schedules in alignment, right?
Yeah. We've been kind of playing phone tag on this one for a while.
And then, of course, the thing about this is, so nobody's under any type of illusions. Me and you talk all the time, and we talk offline, and we talk about things that are of interest, of concern, and how to better ourselves and succeed in the industry. And so that's one of the reasons that I wanted to have you on the show, was because like those things that come up in our conversations, those nuggets, like those are things that I think other people should hear, because they're going to find value in those things. And so that's why I wanted to have you on the show. So, bro, thanks for taking the time to come on over here, rap with me a little bit, and we can get it figured out, okay? I
definitely appreciate you for having me.
Nah, no worries. So anyway, this is Short Circuit. I want to start off with something that's like a tradition on this end here. So before we dive into the heart of the conversation, we've got these 3 rapid fire questions that we do. And so they don't require a lot of thought. In fact, I just want you to kind of say kind of the first thing that comes to mind. One day I'm going to take all these questions, the answers that everybody's given, the Mark James and the Kevin Gees, and then we're going to like maybe break down that into a whole separate topic. Yeah. But the first one is, what's your favorite thing about the industry?
To experience life outside of the box.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me what you mean. Come on.
When I say that is coming from inner city in Chicago, you get built into a box.
Okay.
Certain things you won't really believe that's even imaginably real.
Gotcha.
So the industry just lets you kind of see the world.
It's allowed you to do that. Okay, I get that. That's a plus for the career path, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So now I got to flip it a little bit.
Okay.
And I'm going to say, what's the worst thing about the industry to you? I don't want to say like, what do you hate about the industry, but like, what definitely needs improvement?
Well, how I look at it is, as an industry base, the only thing that I hate that is it's not a collective whole as how it should be.
Okay. So you mean almost like from a unity perspective, is that where we're at?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I see that.
When you hear the word protector, you don't think individual, you think group. You never will go to war with just one soldier. So I would never assume that multiple soldiers would, beef. If the Marines and the Army have to go together, they're gonna fight together. They're not gonna clash.
I get where you're going with that. That's deep. We're gonna have to unpack that one day. Okay, so here's the next one, and it's a little bit of a trick question. Name one person, past or present, alive or dead, that you would like to or have liked to provide protective services for. So you can just run the gambit. Anybody that you was like, man, I wish I had provided, coverage for this person. Fire one.
Honestly, I would probably say Michael Jackson.
Okay, there you go. See?
Yeah.
Michael Jackson. All right, now that's interesting. I'm not going to get into why, because like I say, one day I want to take all the guys that have answered and the ladies that have answered and almost unpack those, because we've got them from across the board. I mean, we've got Michael Jackson, which is a first, like Muhammad Ali. I mean, we had Bishop Desmond Tutu. I think we got a couple presidents in there. You know what I mean? In fact, somebody said Jesus Christ, and I was like, yo,
that might change history, but whatever. Like, it's the first thing that came to mind. So one day we gotta jump into all of those. I'm gonna have to make a special topic about that. But now, I want to get into kind of the heart of why I wanted to talk to you today. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, one of the things that I know that you do is that you specialize in working with clients who operate in non-permissive environments. And some people hear that and they immediately think of places like Iraq or Afghanistan. But I wanted to share a quick definition for our listeners. So the U.S. Agency for International Development defines a non-permissive environment as a nation or region within a nation in which uncertainty, instability, inaccessibility, or insecurity constrain the ability to operate safely. And, I got to say, there's places around the United States like that, right?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
So I think, again, everybody needs to get on the same page, because they always thinking, over in the sandbox and all of that. But, right here at home, there are challenging environments. And I'm of the mindset, which is what I want to unpack today, is that all protection isn't equal necessarily. It's the same foundation, but you have to get specialized skills to operate in certain environments, Yes, and I think this is one that people think, we're in the United States. I'm a bodyguard. I can move anywhere over there freely and without restriction. And I don't necessarily know that that's true. So I was like, okay, let me get JT on here. We're going to talk about it a little bit. So my first question to you is, and this is something that, again, me and you talk about offline a lot. What's the mentality required to navigate in some of those environments that might be, more challenging than the norm?
The mindset that you have to go to when you're dealing with these type of clients and going to them type of environments is a real lion type mindset. And when I say a lion type mindset, it's because, when you hear the king of the jungle, you think of a lion. And that's not always, he's not the smartest. He's definitely not the fastest. He's not the strongest. But the reason why he is king is because how he moves in the jungle and how his aurora, his power can expand out. You know, one male lion can protect a pride miles long.
Okay.
So if you see multiple alpha lions, and I'm into that alpha lion mindset, because you have to be an alpha lion to really be able to strive and survive in this type of environment, because people will read you and fast.
Tell me what you mean about the read you part.
Well, us as men, all of us are lions and predators, and everybody's their own predator.
Okay.
That's
all right. We talking about a lot of metaphors in the jungle, but I get what you're saying is that the mentality is that you need to figure how you can be top of the food chain, because if you are not the top of the food chain, there's something that might be bigger, meaner, stronger that's going to test you.
Absolutely. So but even with that being said, is that still is understanding yourself and knowing what environments to put yourself in. And I feel like that's one of the biggest keys that I'm losing in our field, that I see a lot of individuals thinking that it's more, Instagram cool to be around them type of guys, and really putting themselves in harm's way because they're not built for that type of predator mindset.
No, I definitely wanted to break that down a little bit later. So you're touching on something that I wanted to talk about here. But before I get to that, because I've known you for a while now, I've seen how you move, and it's calculated. And the other thing is, I think too, is that because it's calculated, when you make a move, you stop and reassess it. And it might be, okay, now thinking back, I should have did this, this, and this, but you're self-aware enough to realize that. And I know that there's many in our industry that don't apply the strategy to the craft. They're reactive. Something happens, okay, I can deal with that. I got my gun, or I've got this badge, or I did this in the past. They're reactive to something.
Yeah.
However, there are people that think about what the mission is. What do I need to accomplish the mission? And in this case here, if we're talking about operating in these areas where the environment itself can present a challenge to a high net worth individual or to somebody who don't have a dollar to their name, but because of where they're at a certain place at a certain time. So my question is to you right now is, how much of that mindset, you mentioned being from Chicago and from the inner city, how much of that mindset is shaped by your upbringing?
I would say 100%. I see a lot of guys on the board say, oh man, there's no protectors born. And I just always laugh at that because you have to be careful what you put out, because certain people think as a predator, and it's not a bad thing to be a predator because you have to understand what land you're laying in. So when I entered the protection field, I would see that quote. And what that means to me is your upbringing was a very soft type of upbringing, because that means you never had to protect anything growing up, in my eyes. Mm-hmm. So growing up, I have sisters, I have a mother, I have a little brother, and just myself. It was warrior school.
Warrior school, okay.
Warrior school, yeah, absolutely. I didn't grow up in the area of all the guns and everything like that. You actually had to use your fist. I appreciate that type of area because I feel like that's what helps me shape myself in the career. I was never 6'6". I would never be 6'6". Okay. and I've never had an issue with me doing that in my job. Never had a height, a size problem that you will hear nowadays with a lot of guys. And I think that's just because of my upbringing, is that I was always brought to have that mindset.
So let me ask you a question, staying on that topic. So do you think because some might feel they're at a disadvantage because of their height or their physicality, that then they over rely on other things? Maybe in this case, like the firearms and the weapons, or even maybe just even their mouth,
Absolutely.
Like, one of the things I was talking about, I think it was to Kevin Gee, and we were talking about how people like to skip steps and cut corners. And as we train, both mentally and physically, you can't skip steps. So yes, you can back your way into a job, right place at the right time, and you end up on an assignment. But the mindset still has to be there. The physicality, the training, the conditioning, the endurance has to be there, because if not, when that moment of truth comes, you'll get found lacking.
Absolutely. And that's the old shit moment.
Right. When that old shit moment happens, how do you stand up to it? That moment of truth happens, that's when all the cards are on the table.
Absolutely.
So let's stay on that topic, because some people might think when they hear the word predator, that has a negative connotation. But I think how you're using it and how I understand it is predator is that which is looking for supremacy in whatever that area that's in, because it has to prevail, right? There's predators and there's prey, and then there's the cycle of life.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's talk about that environment. So the world is divided into factions, Democrat, Republican, Muslim, Christian, whatever it is. It's nature divides into factions, and then there's subsections within those factions, and many a times those subsections are at odds with each other, and sometimes even violently so.
Yeah.
So here's my question. If you've got a client that's doing business in those areas, how do you as the protector navigate the terrain so that you don't cause offense? You know what I mean? How do you keep the peace so that you can meet the client's objectives? You got to understand the lay of the land in so many different areas.
And see, that's what goes back to just really understanding the mindset of a predator, but understanding how other predators think. I've done plenty of the video shoots where we're in a total different neighborhood, a total different state. And you just have to understand the land of the laws of the jungle. And once you understand, and each area has their own different land of the laws, that's how you can operate inside their jungle. And that's how you can make things peaceful.
Got it. So you're saying that within the big picture, when you zoom in, we got the federal government, and you go down and you got the state government. And when you go down from that, you got the local government, so you're saying that you have to keep drilling down, because if you're operating at too high a level, right? So I'm understanding this right. So we have, as protectors, have to understand how those things happen. We have to understand the politics of those places, right?
Yeah. Now, it's a catch-22 to understanding the politics, because it's a lot of things that's going on nowadays where people are saying the check-in thing. Me, myself, I don't believe in that. It's a way you operate. It's a way to operate for you don't get abused when you're in movement. If you, quote unquote, check in and everything like that, you lose your respect.
Okay.
You're in that type of world and in that type of environment, all you have is your respect. The people that tell you, oh, we have these guns or we're fighters that fit, all that will not matter in someone else's jungle. You will be outgunned all the time. You will be outmanned all the time. Mm-hmm. So the only thing that you will have is understanding just that aroma,
that sixth sense.
Yeah, like it's understanding that, and understanding like, okay, so when you come into these people, you're meeting them, and you're not necessarily demanding respect, but you have to walk with that dominant walk of you're an alpha, because other alphas gonna feed into that energy and gonna make them respect it. A lot of times when most men clash, sometimes it's the ego thing, but it's most of the time one guy is just feeling like he's an over alpha, and the other one is just trying to show like, oh man, I am an alpha.
Okay.
Once you are in a point where yourself will understand that you're an alpha male and you're conducting yourself and you're moving yourself as an alpha male, you won't have to demand that, because your energy is going to spread out.
Okay. Well, I think that ties in to where I was going next, which is, if our objective is to safely move the client from point A to point B with the least amount of intrusion as possible, right? Like that's a job well done.
Yeah.
But the more challenging and higher risk the assignment is, and that can be caused by the environment, the more difficult that becomes. And we mentioned that moment of truth. So what are some best practices? Because we talk about being predator, so that you don't become the prey when you're in some of these environments. Like, how do we stay off the menu or keep our clients off the menu, particularly when you're in that place where these situations could escalate?
Well, one, your appearance is everything. That's your appearance. And from my perspective, your posture. I know that's what I look at when I see any man. I look at him, I judge him by his body. Age does not matter to me. I know 61-year-old men that's in phenomenal fighting shape. Phenomenal fighting shape. So that tells me how you treat yourself, how you treat your body. That's just one. And then your posture. If you're walking and just head down and everything like that, you kind of let me know what type of man you are. I mean, you can fake the funk.
Sure.
If you learn the body language, you could really fake the funk.
So what I'm getting from that is, what you do is a lot of scanning, sizing people up, but I mean it in the sense of you're doing it in an analytical way. And whether that's in a textbook way or that's in an innate sixth sense, you're looking for those behavioral cues. Maybe that's the title of this podcast when we bring it back to, the animal kingdom or something. But that's what happens when you show fear to something that has a prey drive. It switches, right? So as you're sizing somebody up, and whether you're doing that in order to best read that room, they're doing that in some way, shape, or form as well. Right? Yeah.
And as long as you understand that, then you can know who is going to do what and who is most likely to do it first. So if you take that mindset and take it, like you see a lot of guys jumping on stage and everything like that. If you take that same mindset and take it to a fan and look at, oh man, he just keep rocking up, like just pay attention to their body language, pay attention to, this guy, he's sitting in the back. He's really not, he's probably not going to do anything. You have to just, if you start paying attention to people's body language, you start analyzing the room, scanning people, just not being fixated on one thing. Because a lot of people just think when you hear threat, it's a gunshot or
right. There's only one type of threat, which that's not true.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just think if they open up their mind with that and let it transition, they'll be in better shape. But it's not as easy to scan and read someone if you're not confident in yourself and you're not showing that, because while you're looking at them, you're showing your own weaknesses, or you can be showing your own strengths.
So there's a seriousness to the profession that I feel is sometimes lost, particularly in kind of today's climate. We talk about the social media thing where perception equals reality. Perception equals reality to reality slaps you in the face. You know what I mean? And that moment of truth happens.
Yeah.
And then there's an exposure. The problem is that you can't have this happen at the client's expense, because all of those things that you get a check for every day when nothing goes wrong, you can't say, well, I had an off day, I had a bad day, right? But one of the things you and I talk about offline quite a bit is making sure that we figure out how to stay sharp, how to keep our edge. Because that thing that you're talking about that you grew up with, that sixth sense you referred to, that can get dulled. You can become complacent. That opportunity gets presented, and you flying around the world on jets or whatever that is, right? Or just your economic situation has changed and now all of a sudden things are much better. What do you do to kind of continue to keep that edge is my question. How do you stay sharp?
So I train like it's real, going against and actually competing in different arts.
Okay.
Right? And I come from a martial arts background, but at the end of the day, that is a business. So what I did was I said, okay, I need to see, can I compete? If you're training in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu every day, that means you should be pretty good at grappling. I need to know, can I compete with you? Because in the real world, they're not doing that. So if I can train and compete with somebody that's doing this every day on a high level, I know that I won't be taken out in the
that you can prevail over that. I got it. Okay.
Absolutely. So I take that in boxing, Muay Thai, wrestling, every aspect, because I have a mindset of just always being hard to kill.
Sure. Because basically you can do all the katas you want until you get punched in the nose. That's when it's going to tell you how you're going to react.
Absolutely. Also, these guys, every guy that's doing the knives, that it looks great. I do agree. It looks great. But what happens when you get cut?
Right.
Can you see yourself bleed and still go on with the attack? That stuff gets different, So I see a lot of guys in the industry, they kind of downplay the hard skills. And I don't necessarily like the deliverance of it, because I do agree, soft skills is truly what matters in the industry. Truly does.
In terms of keeping your paycheck, keeping your work.
Absolutely.
Right.
But it's a reason why the Secret Service has fitness test requirements, firearm requirements, recoils. They have to stay in a certain type of shape to stay in the field. A reason for that. And it's just as your insurance. If you're not staying on tip-top shape, when that moment happens, you could have been the best gunslinger alive. But if you have not been training over a year and you just getting slower and slower, your step is getting slower and slower. We already cannot beat time with age.
Right.
So if that's the case, why would you do yourself even more disjustice by not taking care of your body?
I agree, bro. JT Brown, owner of Dog Pound Protection, DP Protection. Thank you, bro. Appreciate you having taken the time to talk to me. We got to get you back on the show later.
Man, thanks for having me.
You have been listening to the Circuit Magazine podcast. Be sure to subscribe and be sure to not miss an episode.